Yeah.
He's like,
He's a show dog.
He's like, hey,
Get me in the pic.
I can't look this good and not be on camera, right?
Right, yeah. He's a good looking boy. Hey, babe.
Yeah. So I'm sitting here with Kay, one of my clients. This is her dog, Murphy. And I just wanted to have a conversation about your experience and really, you know, first start off with what led you to getting a dog. And I would like to hear the journey with that up until you met me.
Yeah. I have always had dogs. I lost my dog, my first real dog as an adult in December of 22. And it felt weird not having a dog, not having something like a dog to go out and adventure with. And so I wanted him to go out and be able to adventure and do things and enjoy the Central Oregon lifestyle. And yeah, we got that, and then we started having problems.
Yeah, and what age did you get him?
3 months.
3 months.
Puppy.
Yep. And what was he like when you first got him?
Super shy, super insecure. A perfect puppy because he didn't really do anything bad at first.
Yeah. And so I know that you had worked with a trainer before coming to me. And so did you go to that trainer because you were having problems, or were you trying to be proactive? What was the story on that?
Yeah, the initial reason was he was fence fighting or barking uncontrollably and was reactive towards the fence. So I wanted a trainer. I felt like everything else he was doing okay with pretty much on his own.
Yeah.
I don't care for tricks, but that comes with the training.
Yeah. So when you are experiencing this barking at the fence, before you go to the trainer, did you try anything on your own, or did you just say, you know, this is kind of out of my wheelhouse, let me seek professional help?
I mean, your usual, like, hey, stop that, like, let's bring you in, right? Like, you're not gonna have access to the fence. We built another fence to block off a portion of the fence.
Yeah. And that was recommended by the professional?
Yeah.
Yes. And so when the professional met with you guys, what was their what was their opinion of Murphy? Like, what did they tell you of him barking at the fence? Like, what was their diagnosis?
Like anxiety or like a fear-based thing, I think was like their thing, and that he was a very stubborn dog. And
were they giving you other things besides build the second fence? What other
engage, disengage, a lot of treat throwing, you know, like a recall of you're pinging things and the like back and forth engage, disengage. Some like super cups, target things to, you know, cues to come back to me essentially.
So was their goal to like gain his attention onto you?
Yeah.
And focus on you. And did they say they were trying to make positive associations around the fence, or was it more just engagement with you?
I can't remember that part, but it was to like can alert, but then engages with me and then ultimately comes to me, and that, you know, he has the tolerance to let the thing go by without barking at it.
Okay.
And so to, you know, come
back. It sounds to me that it was like kind of start at a distance. Was this the reason the fence was built, so that he couldn't get to the fence that was where the other dogs were?
Yeah.
And so then you can kind of keep a distance so then he can't get to it. But was he still reacting even behind the second fence?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And so you start this. Do you see any improvements? Do you see anything that shifts, or how did that unfold?
No, because he was mostly fine on leash for me, so I didn't have issues with that, and I didn't really see an improvement. He didn't really care about treats. It was always he was too stubborn, and so the value of the food had to increase to like breakfast sandwiches that were made for him to try and get his attention off of the fence.
Sounds like he might have been eating better than you.
He was. He had better breakfast than me for sure. Yeah.
So you're becoming a gourmet chef. You're increasing the value on this stuff.
Yeah.
It's you're not seeing improvement.
No.
And so, did you communicate that things were not improving?
Yes, and I think I always took it on as like I wasn't doing enough of the training.
Do you feel like you were not doing enough, or do you feel like it was it was just not working?
I mean, I think I had a hard time seeing the value in it, and so it wasn't something that I was super consistent with, because I can get him to do a down, sit, a stay, a wait, or whatever.
Yeah.
And that was fine, but that didn't help with the fence.
Yeah. And so that was the initial reason you started going there.
Yeah.
And then it started to unfold into being more serious behaviors.
Yeah.
And can you go into the details of that?
At about 6 months, I think we'd maybe hit the 75 or like 80% mark of like the sessions I had with that trainer. And so he had a really strong association to food, and they started fighting over bones and treats and those high value things that were left around.
Remy, the other dog that's living with you.
The other dog that's another male dog in the house.
Yep.
And he would start going after him, and it started to be almost daily kind of thing.
And so it started with this reactivity on the fence line. Yeah. Then it progresses into the Murphy and Remy starting to fight over food.
Over bones.
Over bones. Yeah. And then what was the recommendation once that stuff started happening? Separation
and management.
Mm-hmm. And the management, I'm guessing, pick up bones off the floor, make sure that they're not with one another. Yeah. Are you being told to like place them, baby gates, downs, keep them in area? Like what does that look like?
So I'm in a split level. So like basically Murphy gets to downstairs where I am, getting that off. Separate times in the yard, nothing really together, and just staying away, keeping distance. Yeah. Not interacting. Obviously mealtime separate, treats, anything like that separate.
Yeah. And so when you were told this, what were your thoughts on that?
Not sustainable.
Not sustainable, yeah.
No way I can rearrange my entire life to constantly have someone there to make sure that they're not fighting, constantly have one of the dogs put up because it's not fair.
Yeah. Yeah. And so you're in this position where they say separation and management. They are saying that you have a challenging dog, stubborn. Yeah. It's unfortunate that you are in this situation, but you're a good owner, and you were recommended to contact a veterinarian behaviorist, right?
Yeah. So initially, the first screening is make sure there's nothing medical going on that's causing this, like, seemingly, it did seem very sudden, right? I didn't know the cues before, but sudden aggressive behavior where he's going for the kill. So then I do a consultation with my vet that's super thorough. It feels like an interrogation. They ask a lot of questions. We leave with fluoxetine, start the fluoxetine, and then I get the recommendation to see a veterinary behaviorist in Portland.
Yeah. And with the medication, did you see any improvement with any of this? No, it made it
worse.
Yeah, worse.
Way more reactive.
Yeah. So everything just keeps escalating. You can't live and sustain this separation, crate and rotate.
Yeah.
And so all these things are piling up, and are you feeling hopeless? You feeling like there's what do you do?
Oh, I thought my dog was going to be killed for sure.
Yeah.
If he had to go to a shelter.
Yeah.
Which wasn't an option.
Yeah, it wasn't an option, but you also are feeling in a jam because you're thinking, well, where I'm at right now, like, where do I go? I can't, like, I kind of need to stay here until I would find something else, but they're always fighting. Yeah. It's creating stress within everybody in the home.
Yeah.
because it becomes this big stressful ordeal.
Yeah.
And no one knows what's really going on, so it's just a lot of pointing fingers, blaming one another, right?
Yeah.
And which, no fun.
Yeah.
And so you're at this point. So how did you hear about me?
Quick search of aggressive dog training, Bend, Oregon.
Yep.
And your website was the first that came up.
Yeah, and what drew you to reaching out to me on seeing if I could help?
This lady's review, I don't remember her name at the time, but it sounded like she had a pretty identical situation. And I was like, okay, if it's possible these two dogs can stay in the house and we can do something, I'll do whatever it takes.
Perfect. And so you got, excuse me, you got to this point that you're feeling hopeless.
Yeah.
It's like, I need to do something.
Yeah.
And it's like the perfect catalyst for change.
Yeah.
Because it's pretty much literally do or die.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And it's going to unfortunately be Murphy.
Yeah.
And so you reach out to me, and we start off with initial consultation, which, very, very thorough, kind of where
It's not planning for that long of a phone call the first time.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But as we dive into the history, we can paint a better picture, and it also gets us more familiar with one another on how we think, and is this a good fit? Are you ready for something like this?
Yeah.
Because I find a lot of times people aren't understanding what they're about ready to get into on the deep work that will need to be done.
Yeah.
And that can be surprising.
Yeah.
And so I like to take my time and really see where people are at. So we have this conversation, we go into the history, like some of what we've been sharing now, and we decide, hey, let's start with him coming to daycare twice a week.
Yeah.
I can evaluate him and get to know him. And then I give you some recommendations of, hey, like, stop doing these things right now.
Yeah.
Let me look at what's happening. And so he comes the first day, and the first time I see him, he's tucked tail.
Yeah.
You're worried of him biting, which we actually didn't mention, the biting of people.
Yep.
Right?
Yep. Nipping at, people.
Yeah.
Dog walker for the other dog. An ex-partner's roommate.
Yeah. And so he's been biting people. The walk is a no fun.
Yeah.
And when I first met you guys, he's tucked tail. You're worrying that you don't want him to bite me, right?
Yeah.
And so I have you put the muzzle on, and then I take him back, and I have dogs behind a fence.
Yeah.
And there's no fence fighting, nothing like this.
Yeah.
And I then put him with dogs, no issues there. I was able to handle him, no aggression towards me.
Yeah.
He scared dog, fearful dog.
Yeah.
Insecure.
Yeah.
And so when you come back, I look at talking with you and saying, hey, we need to start with setting some boundaries. This dog is very clingy to you.
Yeah.
Right? And so we look to set the boundaries. And how did it make you feel at first with the boundary setting?
Wanted to quit. I was like, you remind me of dudes that have been violent towards me.
Yeah.
With the way that you were doing it in the bus. So,
yeah. And so you wanted to quit, but you didn't. And I'm curious, what made you come back for the second visit?
There's no other option.
Yeah.
Get with it or get lost.
Yeah. And so we had a conversation about this, right? That I was very thankful that you did come back and you expressed this to me, and I can completely relate. And then we got into this about boundaries, and that look, to be able to set a boundary and be meaningful, there is a part of it is intimidation.
Yeah.
That I mean what I'm saying, and I'll back it up. And a lot of times we don't want to think in that way.
Yeah.
We don't want, we're always trying to do it in the most polite way as possible.
Yeah.
And I get that. When I look to communicate with the dog, I'm looking to do it in what I call, I'm trying to find the Goldilocks zone.
Yep.
Not too firm, not too soft, not too hot, not too cold, just right.
Yeah.
But sometimes you have to be pretty hot, pretty firm to get your point across.
Yeah.
Just like in the story of Goldilocks, you know, Goldie liked just in the middle.
Yeah.
But we have to remember there's some bears that liked it firm. There's bears that needed it soft.
Yeah.
And so we gotta be able to fluctuate.
Yeah.
With Murphy, all he knows is, I gotta be doing this, I gotta clean here, I have to do this, right?
Yeah.
So determined.
Yeah.
So I had to be more firm, and then he got that point, and he stayed back.
Yeah.
And when we look at a dog like him, he's this insecure, fearful guy who doesn't feel protected,
Yeah.
right? He doesn't feel protected.
Yeah, definitely let him down many times where he'd been like mauled by another dog.
Yeah.
Dogs.
Yes. And then people coming in to pet, right?
Yep. I see that too.
Not seeing that where he was at on this, and so we're just letting people come in. I always say it's like having a baby and someone comes over and, hey, can I give your kid a hug?
Yeah.
Like, I don't know you. Like this, like we want to keep predators away.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, we should do that
potential threats.
Yeah.
And we have to see it through our dog's eyes.
Yeah.
Not just what we want them to be. And oftentimes when people think of socialization, they think it's going around and you let everyone just pet your dog.
Yeah.
And if you just are doing this kind of stuff, the dog's going to see that everything's wonderful and it's fine and it's all good stuff.
Yeah.
And it's just not how it works.
Nope. I did all that. Didn't work.
Yes. And so we're starting with that boundary setting just with you, because I think that if he doesn't understand that you can set boundaries and that you don't need him to be clingy, that how is he going to think that you can protect him?
Yeah.
Right? And so when you started the journey of setting boundaries, how was that experience for you?
Easier with other dogs. Hardest with him,
Yep.
obviously.
Yep.
Didn't feel good, but I mean, I don't know. Within a month, I think I was feeling on some sort of high.
Yep. And with what you do with therapy, being a therapist, do you see correlation between what you do and what I do, and the aspect of boundaries for sure?
Yeah, you have the same type of clients that I have.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I'm the same type of client that,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. And so I find that a lot of times, a lot of people's problems are boundary related issues.
Yeah.
And that could be internally, setting limits and boundaries on ourselves. It could be boundaries on others. It's a lot of times too where I think you'll see this, where when people are feeling negative emotion, they're experiencing things that are stressful, uncomfortable, they'll often look to distract themselves, numb themselves. And I find that a lot of people are using their dog to do this.
Yeah.
And after we started talking, I think you started to see that.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Definitely was seen as like an emotional support dog.
Yeah. And then when you think about it, well, then we're asking the dog to take care of us, protect us.
Yeah.
And then when they start protecting us, doing these things, that makes us stressed and uncomfortable. And it becomes this vicious cycle, because then we're trying to do the very things that are producing the problem typically.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. Oh, yeah. Did the exact opposite of what I wanted him for.
Yeah. Yeah. And so then he's actually creating more stress in your life, right?
Oh, yeah.
But ultimately, it ends up working out perfectly, because he gives you this opportunity to learn something that's very, very important for your life.
Yeah.
And will actually carry you forward into the life that you're living, and also just becoming more of a realist.
Yeah.
And saying, oh yeah, this is what's happening, and taking responsibility
Yeah.
for your end, which is what you did, you know,
Yeah.
like you
and if
said.
I'm going to view him as a kid, I'm going to treat him like a kid, or I'm protecting my kid, right?
Yeah.
And like being firm with my kid.
Yep.
And letting them know like that I've got this.
Yep. And there's this balance too of not wanting to overprotect.
Yeah.
And that's sometimes what we also look to do. You know, we overprotect, and that's not good either. It's this balance. It's why the Goldilocks thing is a really good story, because it's finding that right point.
Yeah.
And that fluctuates. Yeah. But we start going down this path, and he's coming in, and he hasn't been aggressive, not doing that. He's really just kind of staying to himself for the most part.
Yep.
And I'm telling you that we just need to give him time, that I'm here to make sure that he stays safe.
Yep.
But he needs to move into this discomfort, because this discomfort is what led him to the aggression. He's just being emboldened by the way that you had been approaching things. Yeah. And so then he doesn't feel emboldened. It's like you go to a country by yourself versus with a group of friends, you're probably going to be more confident with
in general, anywhere.
Yeah, with your group, right? Yeah. And so here, once he gets removed from that, we get to see more of who he really is.
Yeah.
And it just shows that, he's this nervous, insecure dog. Yeah. And we give it time, and then he starts to open up. He starts to play with the other dogs, right? Yeah. And when we look at him coming here, it sounds to me that he is usually pretty eager to get up in the morning and come here now.
Yeah, definitely used to drag his ass. And then, I mean, I don't know, maybe 2 months now, he's been like, let's go. Finish your breakfast. Let's go.
Yep. And this is where I think people can often look to quit too, because the reason they're in this problem, because they want their dog to be comfortable, they want them to be happy, they want them to feel good. Yeah. And so once they see the dog in any kind of discomfort, stress, they start to worry themselves, and then they do all these, we got to avoid that. Is it okay, buddy? And let's try to, hey, it's okay, and try to get them excited. They try to play games. Yeah. They try to do all these different things that can ultimately lead them back to their problems.
Yep. Yeah.
And so this is what I think was so cool, seeing you be at this point that you said, look, I need to do something for my dog. I can't be someone that gives them up. Yeah. That I have responsibility. Yeah. You take that responsibility. It was tough. You were feeling like quitting, but you again reminded yourself, what other options do I have? Yeah. You continue moving forward. I'm letting you know, listen, this is we're moving along just perfectly. Yeah. This is all good. Yeah. And then once you started seeing him open up, how did that feel when you started seeing him?
I think it just solidified that, like, while it is about him, honestly, it was mostly about me, and I started seeing changes in myself probably at the same time that he started acting differently here. Yeah. Which I was like, oh, okay, we're doing the right thing. Like, I'm doing a lot of work that I haven't done in a really long time.
Yeah. And that's what I saw, was that you were moving into it and like dealing with stuff versus, avoiding it. Yeah. And that's what it actually takes in order to have success. You have to move through it. Yeah. There's no going around it. Yeah. There's none of that. Yeah. And people are trying to find these, I'm going to go around it. What's the shortcut? And a lot of times people think that I'm this, like, claiming that I'm this, like, this quick fix, like, and really things can change quickly. There's things that can change quickly, but there's also things that don't. And there's some things that never change. They need to be understood and why they're taking place and how to navigate it. I always say it's like someone with autism, that's never going away. Yeah. You have to learn about it, and then how do you navigate that? Yeah. But it's just always really cool to see people doing the work, and then it comes to finding the right pace.
Yeah.
Not too quick,
Yeah.
not too slow.
Yeah.
That right pace again.
Yeah.
Always that.
Slow burn on this one.
Yeah, and that's how most people are.
Yeah.
Most people are.
Yeah.
It's very rare that someone comes in and it's quick. Sometimes I move the dog through things really, really fast, because the dog needs to they just need to experience it and get over, and then they come out the other side going, that wasn't that bad.
Yeah.
Other times it has to be a slowed down process. It's too much at once.
Yeah.
And so with people, most of the time, it's too much at once to go all in, and so we find where's the most important piece and we build upon it. For you, for sure, it was first just stop, like certain aspects of stop going to him to pet, stop petting him when he comes over to you, just get rid of the toys and the games right now. Like you need to understand what's happening.
Yeah.
And when it comes to the toys and the games, we don't want to be feeding into the predatory, assertive, dominant, aggressive side. So I like people to put these things up, and then we'll come back and we'll address what we taught and get them to unlearn the things that we had taught them.
Yeah.
And so we first started with just stop doing things.
Yeah.
Let's first start with then him coming, then it started with boundaries.
Yeah.
This is what you need to start saying what you don't like. And I started telling you that you needed to look at this him being clingy to you, right?
Yeah.
He just constantly just right underfoot.
Couldn't take a shower without him.
Yes.
Not in the shower.
Yeah, of course. But always had to be right there, right there. Yep. And so that's what we started with. And then I started having you come in and set boundaries, not with just him, but everyone. I said, you tell everyone to leave you alone.
Yeah.
Just so that you can understand that that's fine.
Yeah.
What's wrong with you saying, don't approach me?
Yeah.
But often we're looking at, well, are they doing something right? Are they doing something wrong?
Yeah.
And it's like, no. It's just a conversation saying, I don't want to be bothered.
Yeah.
I don't want to be approached.
Yeah.
And so then you started doing that. You realized it's way easier with the other dogs versus your dog.
Yep.
And I highlighted that, don't you see then that emotional attachment, to him and how that's blocking you, where here you're doing it and these dogs have no problem with what you're doing.
Right.
They're respecting your boundaries.
Yeah.
And if they're not, I'm letting you know how to follow through with that.
Yeah.
I mean what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So then they do actually respect what you're saying, because it is not fun when you're looking to set a boundary and it's not being respected.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so we started with just that, right?
Yeah.
And then as we continue to move forward, I took him to a pet store.
Yep.
And I took him in there, and when you first saw that video, what were your thoughts?
It's cool. Yeah, it can be done.
Yeah.
He's not a lost cause. Like, I can go out and do things with him.
Yeah, because you were told you pretty much need to find places that people, dogs, that these things aren't there.
Yeah.
Just keep your distance, which means that you're trying to go out into the middle of nowhere, trying to find weird, bizarre times, and even then, like, you can still run into these things
because everyone else has. It's a common issue.
Yeah, everyone else is trying to do the same thing.
Yeah.
And so avoiding it, you can't always do it.
Yeah.
And that's just how it is. And so we need to look at the big picture and develop ourselves in all sorts of ways. There's a time to avoid.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
It's like, you see all that over there? Yeah, let's go that way.
Yeah.
Other times you say, I can't not avoid. I have to hit this thing head on.
Yeah.
There's no other option.
Yeah.
And if you don't have that ability, that understanding, it could be serious. And this is where I think that this is so much more realistic. And I like to show people possibilities. So this is where I usually go, and everything that you want to do,
Yeah.
I then try to show you, well, I'm doing it.
Yeah.
So then you have something to model and to actually say, well, it is possible, because a lot of times people don't think it's possible. I get dogs all the time that people go, yeah, this is our last chance.
Yeah.
This is our last chance. And we don't really think that it's going to be able to be done, but we just want to feel that we've done everything we could.
Yeah.
And then I show them something different, and they go, oh my gosh, I can't believe what I'm seeing.
Do it,
or sometimes they'll then I'll tell them what's happening and how we need to navigate, and then they have problems with that.
Yeah.
But that happens in anything in life. You know, you tell somebody, well, the way to be healthy is you need to be like this, and well, I don't want to do that. I still want to go and eat the way I always eat, because all my friends do this, and I won't have my friends then. You know, it goes into deep things.
Yeah.
And so we now know that, well, he can go out and be around people, dogs, all this. And then we started going to Lowe's.
Yep.
And what was that experience like?
Pretty nerve-wracking for me, but uneventful, I would say, because he did well.
Yeah.
Mostly he followed a couple of like redirections, right, to like get him to whatever, stay back.
Yeah.
Couple of menacing tiny dogs.
Yeah, which you were like, wow, right?
He didn't go for him.
Yeah. Which was a one again. I feel like on this journey, there's just been so many like, wow, he didn't do that. Wow, like a lot of just seeing things that usually would be something problematic, and then seeing it not be so. And when we really look at the walk, it's not like we worked on the walk.
Nope.
We focus 100% on your relationship.
Yeah.
And then when he was starting to get ahead, we set a territorial boundary, said, hey, you're safer to follow behind us.
Yeah.
Like, so then we can come into those situations, and he can go, okay, I can follow your lead. And then if people or dogs were to approach, we could say, hey, like, you know, we want to ease into this. So then he can see something different himself.
Yeah.
Because he wasn't feeling protected.
Yeah, he's not charging ahead, trying to make his own decisions that were usually not good ones.
Yes, exactly. And so we're looking at this as a relationship. We didn't need to spend time thinking about heel and place and sit and down and did you bring your high value sandwiches, you know?
Yeah.
Didn't have to do any of this.
Yeah.
We have to understand the dog by nature.
Yeah.
And once we do, it becomes beautiful, amazing, really. And really we can do less.
Yeah.
And it's the Charmin thing, less is more.
Yeah.
And I think that this is where you come twice a week and we get around this, we talk, and it unlocks different things because it's life, right?
Yeah.
Some people will go, well, why are you still going there? Like, we've seen this change in Murphy, right? They see this change. Why are you even bothering? Like, and it's because you gotta.
They're still like, I'm still learning.
We're always learning and we're socializing, right? Yeah. We're socializing, and
new things arise.
Yeah, you know? and it gives him the ability to make friends and have a good time, and isn't this what we got dogs to do? We got them to go out, have some fun, socialize, enjoy our dog meeting other dogs and navigating, right? Yeah. And so overall, when you look at what I do, what do you think is so difficult for people to understand about what I'm doing?
Everything, because it goes against everything that we're taught and like kind of like indoctrinated with dogs, right? Of just like you do the sit down, all the typical training, you do the puppy training, you do the, you know, treats, and you do the toys, and you have to unlearn every single thing.
Yeah.
And you have to actually like learn how to be a leader and not just be like, whoa, you know, okay, we'll just hide or will avoid this problem and will not really look at what we're doing. I think that's the other thing, is that no one thinks that it's them, it's just their dog. They just got, you know, the bad egg of a litter, or it's just their genetics or something.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's, I'm not going to say 100%, but a very high percentage of us and how we relate with the dog.
Yeah, even if it's genetic, we're usually exacerbating the genetic problem.
Yeah.
You know, and if we actually understood what was even going on with the genetic problem, it's easier to navigate when you understand what's happening, for sure. And so when you look at this, you know, it goes against what we believe as a society.
Yeah.
When you look at what you do, isn't it typical that when something challenges your belief, that it's going to be a very challenging and uncomfortable experience, because we feel threatened. There's our beliefs we identify with, it's who we are. So there's this aspect of us dying, and the fear of what if our friends and family and the neighbor, and like all these fears start to come in, that if I do these things, oh my gosh, what is everybody else going to think, and how's this going to work out, and but with my family and with this and that, right? And I'm sure you're seeing the same thing with what you do, right?
Well, even then I have to be selective with who I talk about this with, because it's seen as controversial.
Yeah.
But I mean, everybody cannot deny the results, that it was a night and day from coming here, that every day fighting went to like 3 fights in the past 6 months.
Yeah, which we also, which we also need to understand, that the other people in the house are slowly coming on board. So they're actually producing the very problem that ultimately you guys don't want.
Yeah.
But it's being produced by the way that they want to interact with the dogs. But they have been making changes and shifts, which is great.
Yeah.
We're all on a journey.
Yeah.
But just knowing and understanding it, it makes it to where we go, cool. We're not in this like, oh, what's going on? And oh, it happened again. And it's like, oh, makes sense.
Yeah.
And then we have to work on changing how we are.
Yeah.
I always say, you know, people want change, but they don't want to change.
Yeah.
And it just is like, no, the only way to get change is you have to change.
Yeah, I mean, has to be done.
Yeah, there's certain aspects of life that you don't have to change, and change just happens, like the seasons.
Yeah.
You know, but it's something that I think that it's funny how nature, looking at dogs from a dog perspective, communicating with a dog from an animal perspective is controversial.
Yeah.
You know, it's kind of bizarre.
Yeah.
But I start to see more and more of dog train. It's like a circus animal, you know, where it's just these little tricks, and we think that, like, why do we need to tell a dog to sit and down and place? Like, we think that these things are so important, but I get questionnaire after questionnaire after questionnaire. These dogs have been to multiple trainers. They've been trained to a T. I've had so many people say, this is the best trained dog I've ever had. But they still are trying to bite my guests. They're still attacking my dog, my other dog. They like, so then what's going on? And people then want to say, oh, it's because they're stressed, and we got to, you know, reduce their stress. So let's try to create distance. But I live in an apartment complex.
Yeah.
I can't create distance from these things.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So then they think, oh, we just can't do it. So then they give their dog up. They try to find someone that will take the dog on. And a lot of times people don't want to tell the truth.
No. Yeah.
Because they know, so they'll say, would do best in a home without another dog.
Yep.
My dog's aggressive to dogs.
Yeah.
You know, they're shy of men. My dog has problems with men.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
We have to start taking responsibility and accountability for things. And that's what, you know, as a therapist, you're always trying to help people see the accountability, the responsibility on their end.
Yeah.
Understand what they have control over in their life, what they don't have control over in their life, and so that they can start to navigate these things.
Yeah.
And I'm constantly seeing in the dog world, it's just a human thing. We tend to want to blame others. I mean, even for me. I blame the shelters not getting with it on what they need to do.
Yeah.
And like it's what we do. But I have a big problem with people that say that they're going to exhaust all options. We'll exhaust all options, but when you give them another option like this, they don't want to exhaust it.
Yeah.
And I think that it's because it then makes them have to look at themselves in the mirror.
Yeah.
And it brings up a lot of stuff, because sometimes they've maybe been at a shelter where they've given approval to euthanize a lot of dogs. Now they have to deal with the fact that they potentially, killed a bunch of dogs.
Yeah.
If it's behavioral problems, they killed a bunch of dogs that didn't need to be killed. They need to be understood.
Yeah.
And that's a lot to deal with.
Yeah.
And so it's sometimes easier to discredit me and what I'm doing and why, and try to act as though that's the bad thing.
Yeah.
I
mean, yeah, it's easier to blame you instead of me being like, oh, there's this huge blind spot where I'm not seeing how I'm actually acting, and this is showing up in my relationship at the time and other things, right? And then I was like, oh, it is me. Okay, it's me. Hi, on the problem.
Yeah.
So like I can do this.
Yeah, it's like I go to a personal trainer, and I'm looking to get in shape, and then I stop going.
Yeah.
And people go, well, why aren't you going to that trainer? Oh, he's such an asshole. Why? This guy wants me to change the way that I'm eating.
No.
He says that I can't be going to McDonald's, and I can't keep eating out like this, that I need to eat whole foods, that I need to drink plenty of water. I need to start going to bed earlier. I need to stop going out and partying like I have been.
Yeah.
And like, come on, dude. I hired you to get me in shape, not to get into my personal life.
Yeah. Yeah.
And this is what I find a lot of times. What happens is we want the result, but we don't want to live in the way that gets us the result.
Yeah.
And so I'm just always thrilled when people such as yourself come around, and you start putting in the work.
Yeah.
And then it's always like, I see the potential in you, and sometimes it's difficult because it's like there's these blocks, and I have to be able to sit back and know,
not push it.
Hey, you're moving through. I don't want to push it too much.
Yeah.
Just you're continuing to do it.
Yeah.
Just similar to your job, where you have to know when to push, when to back off, and sometimes you push and you realize shouldn't have pushed there.
Then you get fired.
Or you don't push, and you said, I should have pushed there.
Yeah.
And this is where we're always learning, just like with the dogs. Like, we learn through consequences.
Yeah.
We do something, and then it gives us the ability to learn something from it.
Yeah.
And so with this being controversial, and where it's a topic you feel that, oh, I got to kind of be selective, is that because it's just like, it's easier to just not get into it with people, kind of pick and choose your battles, as they say?
Yeah. I mean, you have to know who is ready to have a conversation.
Yeah, who's actually looking to have a conversation, and versus someone that's just going to be, it's just me versus you, and it's just, they're not really listening to it. They're not really looking in to understand it. It's just let's.
Yeah, they just want to argue with me.
Yeah,
and I don't waste my time with
not
that.
a constructive argument.
Nope.
Yeah.
And I'm down to have hard conversations, talk about my opinions, hear others, but
Yeah. And so overall, when you now are where you're at, do you ever think that, oh, I wish I would have known this stuff when I first got him as a puppy?
Oh, obviously.
Yeah.
I could have saved so much fucking money not buying toys, not doing half the stuff that I was doing, right?
Yeah.
Just like having a totally different experience.
Yeah. And that's sometimes, I think, hard to deal with. Like because like we have to go, and that's where we might start to try to distract ourselves again, numb ourselves out, because we have to deal with the fact that we didn't know.
Yeah.
We made these mistakes, and you gotta process through that,
Yeah.
and then integrate it into your journey, and that's just what takes place. And now I'm gonna make sure I don't make the same mistake in the future, right?
Yeah. Which luckily I don't feel like shameful. I'm like, okay,
That's good.
Like I got to where I am. I did what I had to do, and I learned a lot about myself in the process. So like, therefore, I don't think that it was wasted time or like, well, fuck. But I do things differently now, absolutely. But like, I wouldn't have met you. I wouldn't have like learned more about myself, and I wouldn't have changed my relationship with him.
Yeah.
If something didn't give, right?
Yeah. And so since we started working, not only has it improved your relationship with your dog, but your life in general has felt like it's starting to move in more of the direction that you're wanting it to go.
Yeah.
Right?
I feel more confident overall.
Nice.
Yeah.
And so with someone that's looking at, they're at this point that they have a problem dog, they've been to other people, it hasn't been working, they've spent a lot of money, and they're a little unsure about if they should come and look into this. Like, what would you tell somebody that was in a jam? Like if you met someone on the street that was telling you where they're at, and how would you go about talking to them about what I offer?
Like your methods, or just
what would you say to them if they were in this jam and they were needing something different?
I mean, what I told myself in the beginning is that like, it's not going to hurt to try, and then if it doesn't work, then you try the next thing. So like, if you've tried all these options and it's got your last hope, just give it a try.
Yeah.
It's literally not going to hurt anything or make a situation worse if like nothing happens, right?
Yeah.
Like maybe it doesn't work out and your dog stays the same, and then you are like, okay, I've exhausted all the options. But why wouldn't you try an additional method just because you don't like something on principle?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, and I think a lot of times people, we want social proof, and so when there's something different, that alone can be a difficult thing because, well, I don't hear anybody else saying these things. I'm looking around and I'm like, I don't know about this, right? And so this is why I always am trying now to really like do conversations like this, because people do need social support.
Yeah.
And it's way easier to look at something and try it out when there's not just one crazy guy over here saying, oh, your dog's that aggressive? I would love to work with you and your dog, you know? And
you're just like, whatever, he bites me. Like, that's not going to deter me.
Yeah, I like, hey, because a lot of people will be afraid that if my dog's aggressive to him, he won't want to work with me, because this is the experience they've been having.
Oh yeah.
Some people can't even get anybody to work with them.
Nope. Yeah.
They're just at a loss.
Yeah.
And so out of everything, is there anything that on your mind, or anything that you feel that you would like to share personally about your experience?
Well, I think to add to the last point, like if someone's on the fence about coming to you, I would say they should just ask if they could come over and see the dogs.
Yeah.
Because I've been around upwards of 15 dogs that are all problem dogs that were, you know, some were going to get killed.
Yeah.
And I've never felt uncomfortable around these dogs, but I've sure as hell felt uncomfortable around dogs that were like trained.
Yeah.
That are friendly and coming up to me, but now I know how to read them. Like that's not a friendly dog. Like that will bite me.
Yeah.
So
I definitely think that experiencing it is better, especially for people that might be hearing stories through the grapevine.
Yeah.
I definitely think that you should just come and actually meet me.
Yeah.
Look at what I do. Actually take serious time and effort to understand it.
Yeah.
Because I can't tell you how many times clients end up coming and sitting back and being a part of it, and they're thinking, this is really cool.
Yeah.
And relaxing.
Yeah.
which is wild to think that they're in an environment that has all these dogs that were dead dogs walking.
Yep.
That they feel relaxed,
Yeah.
comfortable.
Yeah.
And they just think that it's so cool to be able to see, hey, be able to see what's possible and what dogs are really like from nature's perspective of
Yeah.
where they get to be able to see, stuff like this. He's like, look, nature, baby.
Yeah.
Nature.
On camera.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that like that's an issue with our like world, culture, whatever you want to say it is, that like we're not talking to someone, we're not seeing what they're about, we're not seeing like the proof of their work.
Yes.
And so to be here around dogs is so much more fun and enjoyable, to just see them all like being happy and like having whatever mock fights, but like enjoying each other.
Hey. Just like that.
Yeah, just like that.
And so I don't know if it was on camera.
Yeah.
Because it a little bit off to the side, but Samson is running around challenging Apollo here, and he ran into Charlie, and Charlie said, "Hey, don't run into me like that, man. Watch where you're going." And so I stepped in to make sure, hey, you guys had your opinion. It's all good. Now knock it off. And so that's that. We had that conversation, and now everybody's going to go back to doing their thing. But this is what it's about. Where we're sitting here having a conversation, and we're allowing the dogs to be. And I'm paying attention instead of what most people will see if they go to different trainers. Their dogs behind baby gates, in kennels, in place command, in duration downs. They're being held back on leash. Yeah. And to me, I want to be able to. I want to have a better relationship than that.
Well, it's dogs like getting to be dogs, getting to set their own boundaries, and if they go too far, like they do have someone that steps in, but like they're not
like a
restricted.
parent to a child.
Yeah, I mean they're just like yeah.
I think that this is where this scares people.
Yeah.
This scares people.
Yeah.
And they're scared that let their dogs have a conversation with each other, or we're not understanding what's really taking place with what they're doing, and we exacerbate the situation. And I'm not saying that I'm like perfect. Like I've made mistakes. I've done we can get into a journey and a half when it comes to me and the things I've experienced and learned. But it's just like this, where I start to see them challenging each other, and I know that Samson can start to feel bold, and then just like he did, he bumped into a dog because he's not caring about what he's really doing, and then Charlie lets him know. Just like somebody gets bumped in by a dog, they're probably going to say something to you. Hey, watch where you're going.
Yeah.
It's so natural, but yeah, I think that we can learn so much from dogs, and it can bring us back to who we are by nature, which I think is where we suffer a lot, is that we're trying to separate ourselves from nature, and we say, oh, we're not animals. I'm going to go out into nature today. Just even those things that we say shows you that we're rejecting what we really are. And so it leads us down a road of problems, because then we're trying to navigate everything like, oh, I can't express myself like that, and oh, I don't know about this, and so the dogs here, they can express themselves, but if they're going too far, like you were saying, you're going to step in about that. If they're being
if they're being a bully and they're picking on another dog that can't stand up for themselves, I'm going to step in on that.
Yeah.
But I'm also going to potentially let that dog get bullied and say, hey, are you going to set a boundary? Because ultimately, these things are taking place. So I want them to know where they fit in. They can communicate with each other so that really I won't have as much to do.
Yeah.
I maintain, and it's like a good parent. At first, when they start to see their kids arguing, they'll probably step in, make sure that they can influence it, they can hear me. But after a while, you gotta let them have their little disagreements. You can't just stop it all the time.
Can't call them.
Yeah, there's got to be, like, let them have their disagreement.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that we should just let dogs fight each other and figure it out. I'm the mediator. And so this is where this thing gets, I always think that it's interesting because these trainers and daycare and boarding places, they kick these dogs out of their daycare, and then they come to me, and then I have them in the daycare and boarding. And so I think that they're missing it. They're trying to make life easy for them, the human being. They're not looking to really understand the dog. They're not looking to actually be a leader and show up day in and day out and step into that world. And I get people are at different levels. Like, not everybody wants to deal with aggression, but I hate to break it to you, aggression is a part of life. It's there, and it's never going.
It's like an epidemic with dogs too.
And aggression is never going to go away. It's in us. It's in the dogs. It's wired into the way nature is, and so I think that people do need to come and see what I'm about. Really look into it, and it takes time. I've had so many people that they said, Scott, it took me months before I really started being able to wrap my head around everything, because there's so, like you were saying, that it goes against everything people have been taught.
Yes.
So there's so much to go through and to unpack that it takes time. Even for me, like, I'm constantly learning and growing. I don't claim to be, I got it all figured out. Like, and I always want to become better. I want to become a better person. I want to become a better leader. I want to be a good parent in the future. I want to be always a better partner for my girlfriend. Like, constantly like that. And so, yeah, I think that some people, when they see that situation between Charlie and Samson, they might say something like, "Oh, you shouldn't have those dogs together. You should have slowly introduced them on a leash." These type of things.
It's not real life though.
It's not real life. It's not really what's happening. And so they're always going to be stuck because they're not understanding what is this thing. That was 100% communication, right?
Yeah.
Just communication. Now, it could have sparked a fight, because Samson could have said, "Why are you saying me? I can go where I want to go."
Yeah.
Don't be telling me that I can't. Or maybe he could feel like, "Oh my gosh, I'm being attacked," and then he comes back.
Yeah.
Right? Aren't people like that? Yeah. You go to just say something to them, they take it as an attack, and now we got something real going on.
Yeah.
It's more intense. Yeah. You good, man? and so yeah, I think that it's a beautiful thing to add about taking the time to actually look rather than just form opinions. Like, a lot of times I see them watch my videos, and they have these opinions that they don't even understand what I'm even doing and what's the goal. They don't even have any information on the dog.
Right.
They just have a feeling about what they see and how it makes them feel, and then they run with that. Yeah. Which I get. We do that. I see something and I go, I that? What are they doing? I don't see. But I also say, well, I don't necessarily know all the information, but from what I'm seeing, it doesn't seem like the angle I might approach it from.
Yeah. And I mean, it's not an easy thing to do. I still don't, even do things all the time when it needs to happen. But like, it's getting better and it's getting easier, and my dog still loves me. Yeah.
So, where do you think that your focus right now is on your journey? Just getting better at your boundaries, or is there something else?
I think boundaries and still disciplining, saying what I don't like. Yeah. I mean, like I said, it hasn't been a perfect journey. The fights are not non-existent, but they're rare, and now I can like pick apart and analyze like, oh, I see what led to that now because I'm understanding the language of dogs more. And I'm seeing like, okay, that's still an area where I need to like put more pressure or focus more on, or like pull more back, right? If it's like the attention, right, that's a thing within the people in the house. If it's like there's an imbalance of like, I try to be less, everyone still does the rubbing up and everything, and so there's like that struggle over power. And so like working on things like that where it's like, okay, we're getting so close to, like a peaceful house where that's non-existent. But even when those things break out, it happens, it's over, and then we can go back to just,
Yeah, and I think too, it's definitely where things can take time, right? Yeah. Where the other people in the house, like you're showing up and how you need to show up, and this is what's shifting things. Yeah. Just like with the dogs, there's, how many times I have to have the same conversation with a dog. Yeah. I'm not going. I hope I don't have to have this same conversation again today with you.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's multiple times.
Yep.
But that's just how it is.
Yeah.
And it's like with kids. Didn't I just tell you not to do that?
Yeah.
And so sometimes I think we feel that we're not doing our part just because the thing how we want it to go isn't actually happening.
Yeah.
And so we go, oh, I'm not doing well enough. But sometimes no, we're right on the right track.
Yeah.
It's just this is how it is.
Yeah.
Sometimes it won't even change. That's just how it is.
Yeah.
And you have to navigate that. Some personalities are not they're not changing.
Yeah.
You have to deal with it.
And it's like I tell clients, like if you have X years of same learned behaviors, you can't expect it to change in a short amount of time. It's going to be a long process to undo 23 years.
It's definitely better to look at it like that.
Yeah.
I mean, like I said, there are situations where you can have had this experience for so long, and then it can just boom, because of the experience that you had, and it's so emotional. I think of psychedelic, psilocybin, MDMA. These are big experiences that people can have and dramatically shift. But then there's other times where it's like, it gave you some insight, but you still, you gotta keep doing that work. Other times it's just like, boom. I know that I've heard a lot of people with like drinking, they do psilocybin or like smoking cigarettes, and then boom, it's like they just stop dead in their tracks, and because of the experience and how it all connected, that it's no longer a thing for them. And I think there's been people that have drank too much alcohol and they've can't do it again.
Been there.
Yeah.
That's why I think I had so much easier time like knowing that like, okay, I can be the problem and I can also fix it, because I stopped drinking 7 years ago because I had too many of those. I moved to Colorado because I don't want to be in the same town where I grew up in because I had done enough embarrassing shit.
Yeah.
You know?
And sometimes that's what you have to have.
Yeah.
You have to, again, when to walk away.
Yeah.
When to stay out of that situation. When to avoid it.
Yeah.
Hey, I shouldn't be here. This isn't for me.
Yeah, not if you're left to be blacked out drunk all the time, getting kicked out of bars.
Yeah, exactly. And so I just think that it's I think you're right where you need to be, and it's now just being consistent. And what happens is just layers and layers and layers and layers. I look back to how I was when I first got a dog and now where I'm at. It's wild. It's wild to think about how much I've changed. And people would be surprised if they knew what background I come from and how I was. Because a lot of times people, they meet me and they think I've just always been thinking and operating in certain ways. And it's like, no. Believe me, I learned that I did those things. This is what it led to. And I had all these problems, and it was so stressful. And I was looking for solutions, and then you start figuring some things out, and then when you find what works, you can't go back. You just can't go back, because if you do, it's just I have a problem. It's like people that they stop drinking, they might go back, but usually. They had experience. They're like, oh man, it's just always reminding them of how they don't want to do that. So usually they can start prolonging things, and obviously there's exceptions to this for the people that always want to say, well, I know someone. Yeah. But I think that it's just so cool just seeing the clarity I think that you've gotten. And then for you, the stress to reduce, I feel like that the house is united more.
Oh yeah.
Versus how it was pretty fractured. Yeah. And that's never good. It's just like again, parents and kids. If the family's fighting, it's just, well, why wouldn't you expect the kids that if mom and dad are in a problem, the kids might be doing the same thing.
Exactly. Yeah.
So yeah, I really appreciate you taking the time just to do this.
Yeah.
Hopefully it was helpful for some people. Feel free to ask questions. But yeah, is there any last things that you can think of that have come to your mind since?
Be open to change. Yeah. Be open to like a different perspective. I was someone that was, a certain way and would double down on my beliefs, and I think I've changed drastically. It's not just this, but a lot of things that coincided together. And I think ultimately, I have the dog that I've wanted. Like I'm the closest to that as of right now.
Yep. And this is where, we look at Murphy. I'm pretty sure.
I think there's a bone. Right?
I'm pretty sure he has a bone back there. And Apollo is looking at, he wants that bone. But it might not be a bone. It might just be him cleaning his paw.
No, I heard it. He grabbed the bone, so it's somewhere there.
Yeah, I think it's on the other side of him. But I thought he had the bone. But yeah, there's bones laying around, and this is where, looking at creating that problem.
Yep.
And being able to see what's happening. Do we need to step in? Yeah. Hey, you leave him alone. Like, sometimes we let it go. Can he judge his level of aggression? Can he communicate in a way that's appropriate and say, hey, this is my bone. I'm chewing on it. Leave me alone.
Yeah.
Right?
This morning, great example.
Yeah. What's wrong with him saying this is mine?
Yeah.
As long as it doesn't go too far. And that other dog might say, well, I'm willing to fight you over it.
Yeah.
Like, and that's just how it works. And so if we understand that, it doesn't become such a, oh my God, what happened?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But yeah, I definitely agree with being open-minded to change and stepping into that and just understanding that if the things that you're doing aren't working, then why don't you try something different? And actually go into that, because I guarantee that you just getting rid of your dog or killing your dog, that is not actually helping you in your life. You think that's going to be the answer to your problem, but it is not. It is actually continuing to take place whether your dog is with you or not.
Yeah.
It's just what happens. Yeah. And so I think that what would be cool is as we go through this journey, that we do little check-ins. Yeah. And just see where you're at different times of the year.
Yeah.
And see how that change affects your actual life, not just with your dog, because that's what I think is the coolest part.
And I think, I mean, for context, for people watching, we're 5 months. I think we're 5 months in. I think I paid for the 5th month.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And we started really seeing. I mean, with me, I could do what you wanted to go do immediately, but like, we really started to see the shifts pretty quickly with you as well. But everything's been this just nice pace, right? And people go 6 months, but you come in twice. He comes to daycare twice a week. You come in the beginning. Sometimes we talk at the when you come pick up. But it's not like we're like really drilling. It's a lifestyle, a mindset.
Yeah.
It also gives you opportunity to talk about things that are going on in your life, and it's really cool. And I want to create a community where that, like, we're supporting one another.
Yeah.
And we can process through emotions. We can help each other move towards goals.
Yeah.
And because sometimes the people we have in our life, they need to go.
Yeah.
And so I want to create something that people could step into and go, oh my gosh, like I feel like I can make these moves because I'm making other friends, and I've seen a lot of times where that's actually what carries people through, is that it wasn't me.
Yeah.
It was that the fact that they met people in the group, and if we wouldn't have done that, they wouldn't have been successful. They would have quit.
Yeah.
And I think of Tenley's owner as one of them. Like, she was very stuck, but once she met like-minded people, they could work together to go out on a walk together. They could go out into the real world together, and then she started to build up genuine confidence about what she was able to actually do with her dog. And now she even introduces her dog to other dogs. And this is a person that was afraid to even step outside of her door, because what if there was another dog out there?
Well, yeah, and like, you know, a month and a half ago, I mean, you picked the worst hike, but you picked a hike where we took, you know, our dogs that are aggressive dogs off leash. Of course, like, they have a leash dragging, but we came across 2 packs of dogs, and none of our dogs reacted.
Yep. And you saw in those moments too where we saw the pack, and I said, hey, let's go this way. So that's where we are avoiding, but we don't know that pack. We don't know them. Like, we're not out here to do that. Like, we're just looking to stay in our bubble. And then, sure, we could look at mingling, but again, it's like we don't even know if that's what they want to do.
Right. Yeah.
So we just started moving away, and we didn't have to call the dog. We just started walking, and they just came right with us, right?
Oh, they knew they were there too. And I mean, I think once upon a time Murphy would have bolted. To go check him out.
Most of the dogs that we had there would have done the same thing. But this is what's so cool about the way that we navigate, is because it's relationship. We didn't have to have any special commands or anything like this. It's our relationship. And then we are helping them understand how to navigate this world, and it opens up our life. And what I would like to continue to see for you is you being able to go out on more and more hikes with Murphy, because I know that was something that you would have mentioned, like you really want to get back to being more active. You had life happen to you, and you're trying to get back on a better path. And I remember saying, I think this is all perfect timing. This everything's perfect. This is exactly what I love, because it transcends this. Just help with the dog. It's beyond that.
Oh, it's personal,
Oh, it's very personal. And that's why, we take the time to talk to people at the beginning of saying, hey, you realize that we're going to get into some personal stuff. I mean, I've been in situations where the husband is the real problem, and and they keep undermining the wife on everything, and there's always this fighting amongst them, and then the dogs are fighting and being aggressive, and I remember one, I was like, man, I'm gonna have to call this person out and say, you are really a like, why are you doing this?
Yeah.
Like, because this is the problem. I've seen it, like, I see it so clearly, and I am gonna go say, the next session, I'm gonna say this to the husband, ask him what's happening. The wife shows up, she has this big smile on her face, and I say, what's happening? And how's your day? She's like, fantastic. I kicked my husband to the curb. And I went, what? And she's like, yeah, through all of this work with you, I realized that he's actually the problem. And there wasn't any working it out, you know, like, there was none of that. He was not gonna have it.
Yeah.
You know, there's just some people, it wasn't gonna do it.
Yeah.
And so she realized that this had been going on even before they got the dogs. They got the dogs thinking that it was going to help their relationship and everything, you know. And then once she left him, she said, Scott, the dogs aren't being aggressive anymore. I'm going on walks. They're no longer fence fighting. Just off of getting rid of a bad relationship. And I'm not saying that just because you're fighting doesn't mean that you have to leave your partner.
Yeah.
But sometimes that is the only option. But we have to see that these things are deep. And if you hired a trainer, they would be saying, we need to teach place command, we need to burn their energy, make sure they get plenty of exercise, either use these treats and distract them, or use the prong collar or mo collar, and it's like you're missing what's actually taking place.
Yeah.
And it's like you have a rash and you're just using cream. No. Why do you keep getting that rash? What's that rash about? You know? And let's actually understand what's producing it to begin with. Not just continuing to buy this cream to rub on it. And no, that's not how I approach things.
Yeah.
We're gonna go deeper, and we're gonna say, oh, this is why this rash is being created. And so yeah, I'm just so pleased with the transformation that I have seen. I think that the life that you're looking for seems like it's just slowly clicking into place more and more. Every time we talk, it seems like there's another piece and another piece, and it's all funny because it's all around moving into fear and speaking your mind.
Yeah.
And it just you have the best partner for it.
Yeah.
Because you kind of are both in kind of the same place, you know?
For sure.
Like,
yeah.
the same,
Spitting image of me.
yeah, you're kind of in the same place.
Yeah.
And so beautiful. Well, I say we'll end here, and like I said, continue the conversations as we unfold. But really appreciate the time.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you.
Yeah.